Hey everyone, welcome to Taking the Pulse, a healthcare and life sciences video podcast. I am Heather Hoops Matthews, here in the studio today with Maynard Nexon healthcare attorney Matthew Roberts. Matthew, good to be back and see you.
Good to see you. Welcome back.
Today we are joined by one of our favorite reoccurring guests, James Chappell. He is president and CEO of SCbio, an industry association and economic development organization formed to actively promote, build, expand, and convene life sciences organizations in South Carolina. James, thank you for joining us again.
Hi, Heather, Matthew. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
When we were at the annual conference earlier this year, Matthew and I heard the announcement underway where you talked about SCbio Drive, an accelerator program for emerging life sciences companies. If you could, tell us the why, the what, and as I recall, there was a connection to MassBio.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess the quick background, as I've talked about before, the reason that we wanted to do this accelerator is because of where we are as a state in life sciences. I always talk about there's really a handful of states that have sort of kind of won in that kind of economic shift post-COVID. South Carolina is one of those, fourth in in-migration, fastest percent-wise. And luckily for us, life sciences is the fastest growing industry in the state. It's growing 2 times faster than the Southeast average, 2.5 times faster than Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. When you look at jobs, that goes at least back to 2017. And where we are, our goal at SCbio the next 5 years is to become a recognized hub in the Southeast, where when you talk about life science hubs, South Carolina is one of the first out of your mouth. Eventually, we want to be national in Cambridge and Bay Area, but quickly we think we can really set up in the Southeast. So to do that, we have all this growth in the life sciences. We need to build out the ecosystem and infrastructure. And I think what I saw early on, I've been here for 2.5 years now with SCbio, and certainly other people saw it before me. We have all these great companies that have great science. They're coming out of MUSC, they're coming out of USC, Clemson, and they get stuck. They get stuck at 2 to 3 people, 3 to 4 people. They get some federal grants, and they never break out to become what we need to move up the value chain in life sciences. We need more of the R&D here. We need more of the headquarters here. And I think a lot of the times it's not happening because the science is wrong. It's because we don't have that infrastructure that a Boston and Cambridge or Bay Area has, that they call it the bump factor in Kendall Square. They talk about that all the time, where you walk outside in Cambridge and you run into a VC, you run into a guy who had a $1 billion exit, you run into the head of a big pharma company. So we have to build that here and give our companies the resources. And so that's where this accelerator came in. As you mentioned, we have a partnership with MassBio. We're doing other things there with purchasing programs, and we get along with them well, and they see the growth in South Carolina. And we said, well, what else can we do? And so we talked about that, and they have an unbelievable program called MassBio Drive. It's their accelerator. It's focused on pre-seed, seed stage companies, so companies that have raised less than a couple $1 million. And I said, hey, what do you think about doing that in South Carolina? And seeing the growth, they agreed. And so that's where this came from. So that's where SCbio Drive Accelerator came from. It is pulled mostly from MassBio. They've been great partners and still are on this, and we tweaked it a little bit. So to explain it, as most people know, an accelerator is really just that. It's how do we get this company, who, as I mentioned, is maybe early on, they've got a couple employees, they've got 1 employee. How do we speed up their process to become that next big company in the life sciences industry? So that's what we did. We are focused on companies who've had $2 million or less in dilutive funding. This cohort, which will be 5 or 6 companies, is so someone developing a drug to treat a disease. We really, because we have a lot of assets in South Carolina between MUSC and early stage companies, we really honed in on oncology and neuroscience in this. So a lot are doing, every applicant that we had that was in therapeutics fits that space. They're all doing oncology, neuroscience. A lot of them are doing gene therapy as a tool to look at those. And really that's what it is. It's to get those companies to break out, learn, and how to grow. And I think what's unique about the MassBio program and what we've adopted is each company is accepted, gets 5 mentors that stay with them the whole program. And that will be a mentor that they select, not the person necessarily, but the type of person. I need help with fundraising. I need help with drug development. I need help with IP. So they get to select that. We give them that mentor that stays with them through the whole 8-week course. And then each week is led by an expert. We said, let's have them come in. An expert comes in and does a one-on-one video and then is available to meet to ask questions that week. So we have 6 total experts. I guess I'll start with the most near and dear to all of our hearts. IP Legal is Maynard Nexon, which we're thrilled about that partnership. Matthew was, I think, right at the conference, said, hey, let's talk about this. So we're excited to have that relationship. Regulatory, we have MedPoint that is not as household as name as others, but they're a local South Carolina company and perfect because they work with Fortune 50 life science companies all the way down to the earliest stage. So they'll help our companies navigate regulatory. Deloitte is leading the commercialization aspect. Charles River, who we have a great relationship with their Charleston location, is going to lead operations. How do you run operations with a company? And then we have drug development, which I was saying just before we came on, I thought I'd be able to announce a name, and it's certainly a name people will know, but we're 99.9% of the way to be able to talk about who's going to lead our drug development week. And then very close to with a very prominent Northeast VC who will run fundraising. Right. So each one of those weeks is the company goes through. And then the last thing, ours is a little unique that there is an in-person component. MassBio's is all virtual. We want to bring people to South Carolina. And I'll stress too, we want the best science. We've got some great South Carolina applicants. We also have applicants from Harvard, from Cal Berkeley, Genzyme, ex-Genzyme employees, Novartis, Singapore, Netherlands. We're blown away by the applications that we've gotten. And so we're going to pick the best. And we want them to come to South Carolina. The last week of the accelerator, which will be in November, is in Charleston. We want to bring them here, show them, hey, there's a lot of reasons you might want to stay in South Carolina. Here's some things that we can offer you to stay in South Carolina. A lot of them won't, and that's fine. But what they're going to go back, they're going to go back to the Bostons and the Californians and talk about, man, let me tell you about what's happening in South Carolina. There's a buzz there, the amount of stuff that's happening there. So I always kind of jokingly say, to keep the life science theme, there are a good virus. They're going to come in and they're going to go back and tell people the stats a lot of people don't know. I don't know if you've seen, Charleston was the fastest growing life sciences metro in the country based on a commercial real estate ranking. So we want them to see that. So we're going to pick the best science. We'll end with a demo day. We're shooting to have a large number of prominent investors to come in. They'll pitch at the end and see what kind of great science and great stuff that we have happening in South Carolina. So I know that's a lot, but it's exciting of this program, and it's really going to help get us to that goal of that life science hub and help our local companies break out to that faster growth and eventually becoming a well-known name in the life sciences industry.
Well, this is a great program. Very excited for South Carolina and for SCbio. Because you're partnering with MassBio, who has a model, their MassBio Accelerator BioDrive program, can you tell us a couple of benefits that the MassBio folks were able to experience after they implemented their program up there?
Absolutely. And obviously they are the ecosystem that everybody wants to be. So theirs is all virtual because they just want the best science. But the same concept of what we're doing, it's opening up doors to these companies that wouldn't have that growth. They wouldn't have the connection to that prominent VC or to that leader in the pharma industry. It's going to accelerate that growth. So that's exactly what we expect to have here. And when we talk to MassBio, that's why we said, we love your program. We want to have the in-person because we want to make sure that we're bringing people to the state so they see what's happening here. But I fully expect we will have some South Carolina companies in there. I think some of the companies are going to stay in South Carolina. So I think the two immediate benefits is we're going to have those South Carolina companies who may have had trouble getting venture capital. They're going to get it because doors we're opening through the experts that I mentioned and through that MassBio connection. It's going to get eyeballs on us that we typically wouldn't get. I think we're going to have some stay. Some are going to see the great cost of living, the great business climate of South Carolina. We can offer them free lab space if they hit certain metrics for a year in Charleston, Columbia, or Greenville. So I think we're going to have our companies rapidly grow and get relationships that they wouldn't have had. And I think we're going to have some companies stay here after they complete the program.
For our industry to grow 2 times faster than the Southeastern average in South Carolina, man, that is huge.
Yeah.
And you're definitely moving with momentum. If you could talk to us a little bit more about the applicants, how many you've had, what they look like, and then also what do they have to bring or provide or invest? Is there anything?
Yeah, I guess to start, we had over 30 applicants, and they were all really strong applicants. As I mentioned before, the ones that fit the box, the therapeutics box that we're looking, they were all in, or the vast majority were in the neuroscience and oncology space. I mentioned before that we were really kind of blown away and humbled, and some of this comes back from that relationship with MassBio, adding their brand, added a lot of credibility, and then also the leaders that we mentioned. And I mean, we got applications from all over the world, from California, from the Netherlands, from Singapore, several South Carolina, New York, Michigan, Texas. I mean, all over the place. And as I said too, with name brands that will just help move the needle. I mean, the Harvard Medical School and Cal Berkeley and Genzyme and Novartis and others. And so we couldn't be happier with the applications that we got. Where we are now, we eliminated those down or narrowed those down to about 15 of the top applicants. And now we have a review board of people that do this for a living, from search and evaluation teams, from pharma companies, from investors. We've asked them to score it, because ultimately what we're going to get down to is that last or best fit 5 to 7 companies will be the final selected cohort. And the companies have to provide nothing. There's no cost. We're not taking any equity. We are trying to promote the best science and grow companies as fast as we can to get drugs to patients faster, and to make sure people know that South Carolina is a great place to do that. And they should consider South Carolina when they're thinking about growing or starting their next business or relocating. So we ask nothing of the companies except for their time and commitment to doing all the things we ask in the program.
Well, we know South Carolina is a great place to do business in life sciences, but talk about the calendar. When you narrow down to 5 to 7 or 6 actual participants, when does it start and when does it end? You mentioned the in-person meeting in late November. Is that sort of wrap things up?
Yes. So we will let the applicants know who that last 5 to 7 is that make it at the end of this month, early September. They will then start, and most of the program is virtual. End of September is when the program will kick off, and then you'll have each of those dedicated weeks that I mentioned with IP and legal and commercialization, et cetera. And then that goes to that final week. It's really 3 days in Charleston where we're going to bring them in. They're going to have a chance to meet with their mentors who can make it into town. We're going to give them an opportunity to pitch to each other to kind of hone their skills, and then end with we're putting a lot of effort and resources around having the best investor demo day, presentation day that we can, because we're bringing in the most prominent investors that we can, and we want them to see that South Carolina looks and feels like what they're used to when they go to one of these in Boston or the Bay Area or San Diego or RTP or any of these places. So it starts at the end of September and will run through November. And I also want to add that we're really big on improving all companies. So one of the things that we also tweaked from MassBio Drive is, if you apply, that you're not just, oh, sorry, you didn't make it. We want to improve them, those companies too. We want them to make it next time, or we'd love to be wrong, and they're the ones that end up, we would love to be wrong, but we would love one of those companies to be the one that ends up, with the IPO or the big acquisition. And so any company that applies, all those expert videos that we mentioned, the Maynard Nexon IP and legal, they'll have access to that. There'll be a place, those are pre-recorded. They won't have the benefits of the mentor team or the one-on-one conversations, but we absolutely want them to watch those videos and learn. We also are inviting all of them to our demo day. And that's good for them and us, because we're going to have 5 to 7 really good companies, but we want to make sure it's worth the time for the investors to get on a plane and come down. Coming to South Carolina in November to Charleston makes it a little easier sell, but we want to make sure that they show up. So we said, all right, well, if we have the other 15 to 20 that didn't make it in, they're not going to get a main stage presentation, but they can get a table and a presentation. We'll put a one-pager and send that out to the investors that maybe we missed it. Maybe they weren't a fit for us, but they're a great fit for this investor. So they have the opportunity to participate as well. And then also we're going to have SCbio Drive graduates will have the opportunity to present as well. And I didn't mention the SCbio Drive. This is another real advantage of the SCbio partnership. Any SCbio Drive graduate will also get the opportunity to present in Boston or Cambridge at one of their investor days. So it's important to us that we're getting as many shots on goal as we can, getting these companies in front of investors, making sure just because you didn't make it in, that it's not just sorry, good luck. We want to help too. And hopefully you apply again next year and get in. So we're trying to open up the aperture to help as many companies as we can, spending a little more time on those that get in, but also helping those who applied and maybe a little early or maybe weren't the right fit, but are doing good work themselves.
It sounds, quote, too good to be true, but it's true. And I think people will find that to be the case at the end in November, and then you're probably going to have 130 applicants next year. Let's talk about the curriculum and the what next. You've shared a little bit about it. Does the curriculum change, semester to semester, and are you already thinking ahead to the next cohort?
That's a great question. Yes and no. We started with therapeutics because that's what SCbio is focused on, SCbio Drive, and we didn't want to recreate the wheel in too many ways. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of momentum in the state in oncology and neuroscience. We focus there. So as we evaluate it, we'll look of how many cohorts do we do of therapeutics? We will absolutely have cohorts in the future that are focused on diagnostics, med tech, and other areas. So some of those, the curriculum will change a little bit. Obviously, you would switch out drug development for someone more focused on a diagnostics focus, but a lot of it can stay the same. I mean, fundraising is fundraising. You may have a little tweak here and there based on some expertise. So the overall backbone will stay the same, but we'll kind of slide things in and out in future cohorts that are diagnostics and med device. I think the first couple cohorts, we're going to stick with therapeutics just because we want to make sure that everything's running as smoothly as possible. And we did get such great input. And it's a great way that a couple cohorts and with this hyper focus that we're on, it doesn't take a lot of cohorts for people to say, wow, what's happening down there? There's great, neuroscience, oncology, gene therapy. So we want to make sure we establish that. But absolutely, we are already thinking about future cohorts that involve those other areas. We're also growing in the state.
James, you mentioned MUSC, USC, and Clemson. We've got some great research universities here in the state, and that's one of the benefits that helps us with the developing life sciences. How does SCbio Drive, how can that incentivize researchers at these universities and maybe others to be a little bit more entrepreneurial and think about, this is important research, but we could actually turn this into a business. Somebody could, make this, monetize this and commercialize it.
Absolutely. I think that is a tremendous opportunity for us as a state, because as you mentioned, the vast majority of all these companies are spinning out of the three places that you mentioned. There's certainly some exceptions, but those are the ones that most of these companies are coming out of. And I think some of it is just a mindset. I think it is when you go to these traditional places, one, you've seen other people do it. You've seen it becomes part of the mindset of this is just a normal thing that I do. I can take this and commercialize it. And I think reducing frustration for these companies where they see a clear path. And so even outside of Drive, that's something that we're working on a lot. Entrepreneurship is our, I would say entrepreneurship and workforce are our 1A and 1B of our kind of 5 big priorities. So we want to make it as easy as possible for that researcher at MUSC or USC or Clemson to easily see a path, know who they need to get connected to, know what they've got to do to take this great work they're doing into a lab to the potential to commercial.
I had a conversation earlier in the week with someone from the South Carolina School of Medicine about their new facility that they're developing, which is very exciting. And I do think they are thinking about the entrepreneurial opportunities to use that new facility to help jumpstart some of the entrepreneurial ideas that we're talking about. So
absolutely. And I'm excited about the stuff they're doing on Bull Street.
Right.
And as I always sort of preach, when you get into life sciences, you have to get really granular, especially where our sweet spot is right now is growing and recruiting those early stage companies. Obviously, we're always going to recruit the Pfizer of the world. That falls in more of commerce. We support that, but we've got a sweet spot as a state to move up that value chain and recruit those early stage and help them grow. And as I always say, the things that are happening at Bull Street and with the USC investments and MUSC, I mean, all of our universities, that's why people want to come here.
Right.
When you say, I always use the example of the MRI equipment that they're going to have at USC and say it's the strongest east of the Mississippi is what I was told.
Right.
That's something to sell. If you're doing neuroscience work, if you're doing orthopedics work, why do I want to be in Columbia? Well, it's a great place to live, but also because you've got this and you've got some of the best researchers in the world working on it. And now you get to tap into their equipment, their expertise. And so I think that it builds on itself. You get more of the people coming out of the USCs to start their own business and commercialize things. It becomes more normal. And then you have more who want to come co-locate with them. And so it builds on itself really, really fast. And I think we're already seeing it. And I think these are gonna speed that up even more. I was gonna say accelerate, but
you could.
Good word.
You could.
You said the word.
Yes, you could. Well, James, I'm already thinking about, if we're not wearing out our welcome too much, at the end of the year, having you back with one of the cohorts, one of the members of the cohort, to talk about how did it go and what was the experience like? Because it does sound too good to be true, but it's true. So we thank you.
It really is. And again, with the applications we've gotten and the excitement, I've just gone through and been looking at the applications and some of the pitch decks, and to see the work that they're doing and the different ways that they're tackling Alzheimer's or pancreatic cancer or any of these things is so inspiring, and it helps remember why you're doing this to begin with. And to think that you could play a very small role in helping one of these companies get to market and help cure or combat one of these diseases is so exciting. So I absolutely love the idea and would be more than happy to do all I can to get at least one of our cohort graduates to talk about their experience and talk about what they're doing and why it's important. So yes, you can pencil us in for late November.
Okay.
To do that.
I will do that. And from everyone here at Taking the Pulse, to you and your team, thank you for your good work. Like, you guys put in the time and effort. It does not go unnoticed.
No, I appreciate it. And it's exciting to do. We have a unique opportunity in the state that, I probably said last time I was on. I grew up in South Carolina, grew up in Columbia. There was no life sciences industry. Right. We were a textile and tourism state back there. So,
right.
Back then. Now we're known as an auto and aero state. And my goal is in the next decade, we're going to be known as a life science. And we're well on the way, but we've got to maximize it. So thank you all for helping us get the message out, and obviously for being such great partners of ours, across the accelerator and a whole lot of other areas.
Yeah, well, to be continued.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
Right.
Yes, for sure.
For those of you who joined us today, we hope you enjoyed this episode and learned a little bit more about the opportunities here in South Carolina. We look forward to seeing you next time, right here on Taking the Pulse, a healthcare and life sciences video podcast.